Okay, everyone, we are finally here. I'd say welcome back, but you had to be somewhere in order to get back to it. So we are here with 11-year professional player, YouTuber who is teaching the future players of the game, Jermaine Curtis. How are we doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, so I noticed you about a month ago, uh, just with all your videos, you're uploading so consistently. The content on there is great. Swing analysis, reactions, challenges, all those things. So make sure you guys go check him out on his channel. I have a boatload of questions for you. We're talking psychology of hitting. We're talking the thought process of hitting, and we're going to go through your career. And through your career, we're going to kind of unpack some of these things that you've learned over the years and some of the realizations you've made. So, you want to get right into it?
Let's do it.
All right. So, June 5th, 2008, drafted in the fifth round by the Cardinals. Coming out of UCLA, you were above 300 in your average and above 415 in OBP for all 3 years. Up until that point in your life when you were drafted, what did you think hitting was really about?
Um, at the college level, the goal is to win, right?
Yeah.
So, all I was trying to do was just, be a team player, get on base, get the rally going. Those were the things that I was focusing on. And basically, when I think about hitting at that point, I didn't really have a plan at the play. I didn't understand hitting. I was just, I would say sometimes my talent just got me through.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until I went to the higher levels that I realized that you need to know more about hitting. And so when I look back now and I'm like, oh man, if I would have known what I know now, I would have had way better numbers. I would have been focusing on
Yeah.
things differently because, again, at the college level, you're trying to win, you're trying to get the team going, you're trying to lead. I was the captain on the UCLA baseball team,
Yeah.
and so I was always trying to, um, you know, keep the hitters. Basically, I wanted to get them going, and
Yeah.
that's why I got put into the leadoff role when I wasn't even a leadoff hitter because I would be able to,
Just get
get the
on.
team going.
Yeah.
Having good at bats consistently,
It's that
and
next man
then
up mentality, right?
yeah, next man up mentality, and then I got put into the leadoff role, and then we started winning.
Hmm.
And from there, I became like that leadoff guy when I was never really a leadoff guy,
Hmm.
and it just worked out for me. But as far as what I was thinking as hitting, I would just go up there, um, get a good pitch, and take a good swing and get on base, so the next guy can get up and do the same thing.
Something that I noticed looking at some of your numbers in college, actually, you were very patient at the plate for a young hitter. You had, I think it was your junior season, you had 42 walks in 60 games. That was the most since 1997 at that point. That's a
Oh,
ridiculous number for that. Like it
well,
was top 10 in the nation.
Well, I didn't even know that. You're throwing stats at me that I didn't even know. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
yeah, so that's been one of my things as far as like hitting is controlling the strike zone. And the way I learned how to control the strike zone was even from a young age. My dad would be in the front yard with wiffle balls, and the first bucket or first two buckets, I had to watch the ball all the way through to the strike zone. So to walk through, watch it all the way through, and then say strike or ball. So I learned how to follow the ball, and I learned the strike zone from a very young age at like 6 years old to like all the way. That was
Yeah.
our thing every single day, or every single Saturday if I didn't have a game. So that's how I learned the strike zone, and then when I went up to college, all that was just ingrained in me.
It's
I
just
can look
reaction. Yeah.
yeah, I could look at a pitch and know it's going to be off the plate by this much, like before the pitch is even halfway there.
Yeah.
That's just one of the talents I learned over my career because I remember my dad always told me. My dad never really played ball, but he
Mm.
was a simple man as far as hitting and all that stuff because he didn't know much.
See the
But
ball, hit the ball.
see, yeah,
Bad pitch, don't swing.
that's what he used to tell me all the time. He's like, Jermaine, if I was like struggling, he'd be like, hey, Just see the ball, hit the ball. That was it. And he kept it so simple. And I remember when I was like a teenager and stuff, I used to always get upset because I'm like, man, you don't know anything about hitting. Like, you don't know how hard it is. But it wasn't until I became pro that he was kind of the best coach to talk to, because I could go back to him, because at the pro level, they're talking about high level hitting. And
Mm,
so sometimes that could be over the
very
top.
specific.
Yep. Yep.
I feel like that outside perspective just,
Mhm.
hey, see it and hit it.
That was it.
Like that just brings you back. You're like, it resets your mind. You're like, you know what? That's exactly what got me here. I might as well just keep doing that.
Yeah. So he was great when it came to talking about hitting, just because, especially at the highest levels, because it was dumbed down in a very simple form. And if you watch any of my YouTube videos, I try to make it as simple as I possibly can,
Yeah.
because I want the people to understand, sometimes with the hitting community, they overdo it. And
Mm,
it's too much. Sometimes I'm confused. I'm like, what is going on? Like, I don't even understand. So hitting shouldn't be that way. If you're hitting, you know what I mean? Hitting should be an athletic movement and simplify, and so anyways, that's if I feel like if you're talking too much and it's just big words, you don't know what you're talking about.
yeah. I was literally just thinking about that last night. I was watching a video of it was a Christian Yelich home run swing breakdown, and it was this channel just talking about like proper shoulder planes and hip flexor locations and knee bending and back planes. I know those things are important, but those shouldn't be the things that we're focused on. It
Exactly.
it should be the hands, it should be the eyes, and it should be that back leg. You know what I
That's it.
mean?
Yeah.
Like
It's a
it's got to be simple like that, man.
I mean, Yelich isn't thinking about any of that stuff. He's thinking
No,
about, he's thinking about getting,
he's thinking
and
about hitting a homer.
yeah, I know exactly what he's thinking, because he learned his stuff from Barry, and I learned from him as well. So, like,
Exactly.
the stuff that Barry talks about is very simplified as well. So,
You see that Dom Smith Barry Bonds
no,
conversation on Oh my God, it's like an hour long. Highly recommend that you watch this. They go into that minutia a little bit and the mind of Barry Bonds, and that's something that we will get into. But I wanted to ask you, initially in your career, after just being drafted by the Cardinals, who had really started to change your perspective on how to approach hitting, what it really meant to be a hitter at the professional level?
Barry Bonds. The reason why is because, um, I really, like I said, I didn't know what I was doing, and same thing with Christian Yelich. He didn't know what was going on, and he was just good enough to hit. And I feel
Yeah.
like I was that way too, having no plan, no approach. I just literally, there's some times where, like my freshman year at UCLA, where I didn't start a game or anything, and I would come in the pitch hit, and I took no swings before the game, and I would just come in the pitch hit. It was like, for me, I was like, you know what? I could just go out there and hit, and
Yeah,
that
it's
was
just a
basically
switch.
that was basically my approach and plan. It was like, all right, I don't need to do too much, but I was so wrong. And when I
Yeah.
seen like Barry, how he worked, he was up at like 5 o'clock in the morning eating breakfast. Then he starts his day, he hits, and he hits for like 2 hours. Then he goes back home, eats another breakfast. Then he goes back to the field, and then he's hitting a little bit more. And it's like his whole day is structured like a job. And I was like, all right, now that's how you practice. And once I learned that, like that's when my game changed, because I was in the cage, I was hitting off of the exit below, like a machine that threw really hard.
Yeah.
And when I was done hitting, I was literally sweating. Before, I would just take flips and maybe take some BP, and it'll just be like a quality swings, but it wouldn't
Yeah.
be that much.
But
But
you
after
wouldn't know why,
I wouldn't
right?
know
You
why.
wouldn't know
Yeah,
why it was a good swing. You would just know, hey, that felt good. Like Christian
yeah.
Yelich said that in the interview he did about those drills. He was like, I didn't know what it was. It was just like that felt good. I should keep doing that.
You
But
you
the
know that as
meticulous,
a
yeah. Go ahead.
you know that as a young player, because you know what gets you success. When you're
Yeah.
doing a certain thing, you start to hone in on that
Yeah.
and say, all right, that's what gets me like a result. So let me just
Mhm.
keep doing that. And so, yeah, you don't know how it happens. You don't know what your body's doing. You don't know any of that stuff, but you just do it, you know? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, that's basically to go back to the Barry Bonds. He was the person that changed me when it came to hitting, changed me when it came to work ethic. As a pro, I realized that if I was going to succeed, I had to work like them, and that's why sometimes I'm like, I'm working with minor league players and I'm teaching them how to practice because they don't know how to practice as far
Yeah.
as like get the most out of their result, most out of their hitting.
Yeah.
And when they're done hitting with me, they're like exhausted and they're getting in-game swings. And I'll have like a lefty that throws sidearm for lefty hitters, and I'll have like a righty sidearm throw
Right.
to throw
Right.
to the righty guys, and I'll start having them throw sliders, curves because I got it from Barry. His
That's what Barry
BP,
used to do. His BP pitcher. Yeah.
yeah, his BP pitcher was a lefty, like sidearm guy, and this guy would be throwing like 86, and he'd be throwing this hard, like he would
And
bring
that's
them
from
in
like
closer.
40. That's like 40 feet away.
Yeah, he was throwing like 86 from like 40 feet away, 45 feet away. And he would be throwing sliders, curveballs, everything. And Barry knew if he can hit that guy consistently, he can hit anybody. And the other thing we did was we hit off a pitching machine all the time. So those were like
Yeah.
the things that because hitting off the pitching machine is the closest you're going to get to your in game swing. So that's why we focused on that because that helps you play to your basically the game.
So let me ask you this. You just said that the pitching machine is as close as you're going to get to an in-game swing. Why is that? Why is that as close as you're going to get?
Well, because you can turn the exit velocity up, and or you can turn the velocity up, and those balls move, so they're gonna cut, sink, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And if you're able to hit that, then you're gonna hit a pitcher. The other thing is it's hard because it you there's no rhythm and timing versus a pitching machine, so it forces you to get ready to hit.
Just trust your
So
hands. Yeah.
you got to trust your hands. You got to get the barrel there. So as a hitter, you're training all the things you need to be successful hitting off the pitching machine. And a lot of players hate hitting off the pitching machine just because it's hard. It's not easy.
I know I
So
hated
yeah,
it.
a lot of players like at the pro level, no one messes with the machine, and that's when I knew like it was good because Barry was living off of it. And
Yeah,
then
like
when in the big leagues, huh?
if they're not even using it and Barry Bonds is like the only guy using it,
Yeah,
is that even a question at that point, you know?
yeah, and then when I was in the big leagues, I would Carlos Beltran with when he was at the
Yeah.
Cardinals at the same time. Carlos Beltran would take a pitching machine on the road and he would use that as his BP. So he wouldn't hit on the field; he would hit
In the
in the
cage.
turtle with the
Yeah.
pitching machine, and that's how he got ready for the games. And I was like, I asked him, who did he get this from? He's like, I got it from Barry Bonds, and you can hear stories of Carlos Beltran going, in the All Star game, going to talk to Barry and like going to his house and all that stuff. But yeah, so that's basically where I got the whole. That's my philosophy on hitting, using the pitching machine. Now, if you're learning a different bat path, if you're working on a different process, hit off the tee and do your flips.
Yeah.
Like, because you can train your
That's
body to
muscle
do,
memory.
yeah, you're trying to do what you want it to do. So like if you're trying to have a higher launch angle, then
Using air
yeah.
quotes.
If
Very, very strong air quotes on the launch angle right there.
yeah, if you're trying to get that, then you want to do it on flips and stuff so you can manipulate the barrel so you can get that. And then after you got it, then you can go into live pitching or hitting off a pitching machine and stuff like that. So I don't want to say that I don't use the front toss or I don't use side toss or if I don't use tee because I definitely do that. It's just I use the pitching machine during season and to get myself ready and get my college players ready and high school kids ready.
Yeah, I've heard stories about how Barry Bonds used to take the pitching machine and he used to move up as close as like 5 feet. Am I
Yeah.
getting that right? Where he would
Hmm.
just flick his wrist at the ball and it would just go left center, right center, just roping balls into the gap.
Yeah.
Have you ever
Yeah.
done that drill? And how hard is that truly?
So when we would hit off the pitching machine, the first time we put the velocity up, so it was, it was coming out pretty good. And every swing, every first we did top hand. So we just did top hand, and Barry, he's left-handed, and every line drive he would take a step closer. So he got to about with this top hand, he got to about I would say 10 feet of the machine, which is like insane when you think about it. Like 10 feet just hitting top hand and barreling every ball to the back of the net. And the
Stop
ball's
it.
barely, and it's on high velocity. So the
Yeah.
ball's coming out, it's like, and he's squaring it up, square, and then he's just squaring it up. And I know some people might say, well, the ball's going to be in the same kind of location. Well, we were on the other side and we were moving the machine so that he had to change his barrel to different pitch lengths. And he was literally hitting low ones, he was hitting high ones, and he was barreling it up, boom, 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 hitting it wherever. And I was like, man, this guy is unreal. So
Yeah.
that was like the first round, and then he would go all the way back to home plate. Second round would be two hands, go. He could do the same thing, get as close as he can, and then that's where he got to about 5 feet from the pitching machine, and that's where he was just squaring balls up left and right. And I was like, man, yeah,
Oh,
I would probably go like right now if I did it, I probably could go about 12 to 15 feet. That'd probably be the closest I could get. But during the season, I would get really close because I would do that 2 to 3 times a week, and I got better and better. And yeah,
so
he's
does a drill like that just make the ball look like an absolute beach ball when you're 60 feet away
yeah. So they always ask me like, Jermaine, how do you hit 95? How do you hit 100? I'm like, do that drill.
by hitting 150?
Yeah, do that drill off a pitching machine where ball's coming out and you see a blur and you're just trying to touch it.
Hmm.
And if you can do that and you keep your eye on the ball and you can get a good swing off and you could just barrel it just a little bit, when you get back to the plate and it's 95, you got all the time in the world. And if you look at Barry, he was so comfortable in that batter's box when they were even throwing gas. And it's because he trained himself to see that and be able to hit that at any given time. And that's the same thing that I always tried to do was I would hit off that machine as often as I can. So then I would literally hit off that machine at 5:30 to 6:15 every day or 3 times a week during the week. And the game starts at 7 and I would hit off that machine and I would go as close as I can. So when the game started, it was like 95 was nothing. And
Yeah.
so the ball was like you said, it looked like a beach ball up there. And then, you just get barrel to the ball as consistent as you can. Then you'll start driving balls
Yeah.
and you'll start hitting homers and doing whatever you want. I started to get closer to the plate because I knew they couldn't beat me in because
You
it
just had
just did.
your hands were ridiculously quick at that point.
Yeah. Then I could
Yeah.
just get to any pitch.
Yeah. So obviously you were getting to hell of a lot of pitches in the minor leagues with the muck dogs and the river bandits because you were hitting 305, 304. You were top 10 in the NY Penn League at that point in average. The early stages of your career, you mentioned this before, just briefly. You talked about top hand. I wanted to bring this up because this was the video that I saw from you that made me want to get you on here and talk to you. We're talking top hand versus bottom hand. My first question is, which one is more effective to keep the bat in the zone for the longest possible time?
Man, I'm kind of biased because I agree with Barry Bonds, but I gotta say top hand. Top hand creates the path, and it controls the barrel. If the barrel was up here, top hand controls it. If you ever felt like the bat was dumping, or you'll see with a lot of young hitters where the bat head just basically falls behind and then
Yeah.
they try to swing, it's because their top hand isn't activated. It's
Yeah.
not going direct to the ball. So I would have to say the top hand because it creates the path it gets you to the barrel and gets you to the ball. And then if you finish through it, that's when you can really start driving balls. You'll start pulling balls more. And for me, you know, that's what helped me to drive more balls. Like early in my career, I was focusing on hitting 300. And
Yeah.
if I look back, I would be like, if I was trying to be a professional athlete today, I wouldn't focus on hitting 300. And at UCLA, I wanted to hit a high average. If
Well,
I would
because
do
with all due respect, at the time, average was like the pinnacle. Average
exactly,
was everything. But now
yeah,
the game has changed in such a way where we're honestly noticing that there are way more important numbers than that, those three little digits right there.
exactly. So basically, that's what I was aiming for all the time. I wanted to hit 300. I was like, all right, I want to be the highest average hitter on any team I play on. And now that I look back and I'm like, man, like later in my career, the knock was you're not hitting for enough power. So what I did was I was like, all right, man, how can I hit for more power, more extra base hits? And I just basically talked about this in a video yesterday about David Eckstein, where I talked about him, and he basically was like, everyone has pull side power, and it's the same thing. Barry Larkin told me this. Eric Davis told me this. They're all saying the line, left field line and right field line is 310, 315.
Yeah.
Why try to hit the ball to center when you can hit it to 310 or 315? And that basically struck a nerve for me. I was like, oh man, they might be onto something. So entire off season, all I was doing was trying to figure out how to pull the ball, how to drive the ball. And I started focusing more on my top hand getting through it. So
Yeah.
top hand again, create it gets you to the ball and then punching through the baseball as
Yes.
high as you can and out front with that top hand. And then the bottom hand takes over after you got that extension and gives you that really pretty finish. And
Yeah.
so once I started doing that, I started pulling balls with backspin and they would continue through to left field. So I was able to learn how to pull the ball. And then that's when my extra base hits and power went up. And I remember the Cardinals, they always said, hey, man, you're a big league hitter, but you need to start hitting for more power.
Yeah.
And they're like, you'll hit in the big leagues. We all know that. But to change a game at the major league level, you have to
Got to
hit
be
doubles and
powerful.
homers.
Yeah. It's got to be a gap to gap game rather than
Mm-hmm.
just a base hit sneaking up through the middle. So were you predominantly all opposite field when you were getting hits? Were you
Yeah.
predominantly right center, right field, those kinds of swings?
I mean, that's the way you get hits. I
Yeah.
mean, if you can
Take what the
drop,
pitcher gives you.
yeah. If you want to hit, I always tell people it's like you stay in the lineup by hitting the ball to right field. You get famous by pulling the ball, and hitting the ball to right field.
It's a great quote.
You learn how to get your hits. You hit your singles. That's where the hits are because it's
Yeah.
hard to drive a ball over the opposite field, the
For
person's
power,
head.
at least. Yeah.
Yeah, for power. So usually it's a single to the opposite field. And I just took my singles and I thought that was good because I wanted to hit 300. Now looking back, I'm like, man, I should have drove the ball like I was in high school and started, just
Yeah.
being that guy.
Yeah. Because you were mentioning before about the bottom hand and how the top hand, when you're focusing on bottom, is just not activated. It doesn't seem engaged. Does the ball come off the bat differently when you're really focusing on bottom hand rather than getting down to the ball and you're trying to come through it with the bottom? Almost like you're trying to cut it in half with a knife.
We'll say that again. What's the question? Sorry.
Does the ball come off the bat differently when you're focusing on top hand as opposed to bottom hand?
For me personally, I think so. I think again, if you're not I guess if you're not strong with your top hand, if it's not activated, you won't even hit. Again, it controls the barrel.
Yeah.
So, and you could see young hitters where they'll swing and they let their top hand go, and
Yeah.
then they roll over every ball or they pop it up. And
Hmm.
but if you did a top hand drill and you just hit with one hand with your top hand, you could still hit line drives everywhere just with your top hand. You don't have to have your bottom hand on the bat, but try it
Yeah.
with your bottom hand. Sometimes with your bottom hand, you'll roll over more, or I like to say your top hand again creates the path, and your bottom hand gets the pretty finish and the extension. But your top hand, it keeps your body straight, and you're rotating around your body. As far as your bottom hand, it manipulates your body to try to swing. You see how I'm already, look, I'm here, and then my body is now changing to get my hand to the ball. So that's
Yeah.
why I focus on here, because I can stay in the same spot and then get
Your
to
shoulders are
the
still
ball.
in that same plane
Yep,
before you even have to make a move. Yeah.
exactly. So, and that's the key to hitting, is staying square and not opening up. So for me, I'm a big top hand guy.
Yeah.
But that's just my preference. I think in my career helped me the most thinking about the top hand. So
Yeah, and I feel like I've seen almost two different types of swings lately. You're seeing guys like Christian Yelich, who are short, compact, down through the ball, getting behind it. And then I was watching another one of your videos last night about the Braves BP and Acuna, and he seems to be a bottom hand guy where he's just letting that top hand kind of fall off, but he's so quick and obviously super super talented to the point where he could just get to that ball. So I mean, it works kind of differently for everyone, it seems like, but in my personal opinion, everything that I've heard, everything that I've been taught over the years says go towards that top hand, keep focusing on that. Do you think kids are just kind of caught up in the awe of those big finishes, like those big signature home run finishes, and they're kind of leaving out that first vital part with the top hand?
yeah, before we go into that, I want to say Acuna Jr. does use the top hand to get the barrel there. He just manipulates the barrel from being straight to it and turns the barrel so it can get in the air. So for me, like, the top hand's still important. You'll know that the top hand is working because the top hand controls the barrel. So if he's able to consistently get the barrel there, then
Yeah.
he has his top hand working right. And that's the whole point of the top hand. So
Yeah.
you can manipulate the barrel and still
Okay.
get it in the air, but you're using your top hand. You'll know when they don't use it, because
Yeah.
especially with a lot of youth baseball players, they'll swing and the barrel just drops, and that's why they miss pitches all the time, because they
Hmm.
don't have that top hand working. Or you'll
Yeah.
see it a lot with switch hitters. A switch hitter that
Yeah.
throws right-handed and hits left-handed, he struggles to hit a high pitch because the low pitch, his bottom hand is working, or his top hand isn't working as much. So
Mm.
with switch hitters, I always have to focus with their top hand a lot, and I have to tell them, hey, when you're at home, do a lot of stuff with your left hand. Have someone toss you balls or toss you something, you catch it with that left hand, so they focus on doing that. Once we start getting their hands going the right way, their top hand, they
Yeah.
start hitting for more power. They're more consistent. They're more
Hmm.
they're better off, you know what I mean, as
Yeah.
hitters. So I just wanted to say the Acuna Jr. does use the top hand, but what he does is he finishes with that bottom hand long through it, giving it
Yeah.
that sexy looking swing.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to share with you, top-handed hitter is someone that can control the barrel, and
Yeah.
honestly, Acuna Jr. can do that because he's at the major league level. So he's doing that where he's consistently
Just that
takes that top,
appearance. Yeah.
yeah, takes that top hand to the ball, and then, but he just changes the barrel. So instead of coming at it just like this, he's coming to it like that, but he's still changing it. So that's what I had to do when I was
Just
doing
barrel.
flips. I'm sorry, I'm giving you this long answer real quick, but
Don't. You're good.
but when I was doing flips to try to hit for more extra base hits, instead of coming to it like this and hitting the low liner, I was changing my barrel to go a little bit more upwards. So now I was hitting the ball this way, and that allowed me to drive baseball more. So I would just change my angle, a launch angle, and then that's how I drove the ball, and I would just try to get the ball in the air more. So you can still be a top-handed hitter, even though you change the barrel, um, to be more of getting the ball in the air, a loopy type swing, you know?
Yeah. Because coaches always say swing down, down, down through the ball, head down, eyes down on the ball. You want to almost be smothering it. That's not it.
No,
Like, it's the feeling the thought of swinging down, but your hands and your shoulder, they're not actually going to do that because that's just not a natural movement. It's that
Right.
thought of swinging down. So,
What I've what I've what I've heard or what I've felt like decoding all that swing down stuff, that's another way of telling you to use your top hand. You can't swing down and try
without
to
it.
hit with your bottom hand. If you're swinging and your bottom hand comes here like this and you're swinging down, that wouldn't even be a good swing. So your top hand, if you're trying to swing down, what does your top hand do? Your top hand takes over the barrel to get it to go down. So they're basically telling you to use your top hand, but they're saying swing down.
Yeah, I think that was the real misconception as a kid, at least, because you're a kid, you're taking that literally. Like, oh, I got to swing down, my finish has to be down.
Yeah.
But now he's telling me, oh, my finish has to be up, so I have to swing up. These are the things that I was mentioning to you before we started recording. How I never felt like I was gifted this information of the why and how everything works. That's really why I wanted to talk to you and why I started this channel. And we were just talking about top hand, bottom hand, and now I want to get into the bottom half a little bit because you signed with the A's in 2016 as a minor leaguer, and we've seen guys like Mark McGuire and Ricky Henderson come through there with just tree trunks of legs. So I wanted to get into the bottom half, and the first real question I have is, what is the key to a powerful base at the plate?
Man, the base. For me, that's the most important part of hitting. The reason why is because just to go back a little bit, what a pitcher is trying to do is to get you off balance, trying to break your base. So your job and only job as a hitter is to put yourself in a consistent place, a strong position, a strong base, so you can put your best swing off as consistent as possible. So when you ask, what do you need to do to create a strong base? Well, there's a few things that I do. I hit off the pitching machine, and I'll do curveballs. And I have curveballs coming like really, really slow. And the reason why is because you have to
You got to
wait
sit
on
on
your
that.
backside. Yeah, you have to sit on your backside. So what you want to do is you want to be 50-50 or 60-40, with 60% of your weight being on your backside, and not 60% on your front side. You'll see with a lot of young hitters, they'll jump towards the ball. Yep, they'll jump towards the ball and they're putting too much weight in their front foot. Then their swing gets choppy. So then they end up hitting ground balls, or they're popping the ball up, or they're just missing a lot because their swing becomes too steep. So what you want to do is put 50-50 on your backside and 50 on your front side. And that would give you a line drive type swing. And if you're trying to hit for more extra base hits, you see most power hitters, they're either 60 on their backside and
Yeah,
40 on their front side. So you want to give yourself a chance to be that in that place. And the way I do it again is I start off the pitching machine and I'll do slow curve balls. If I don't have a pitching machine, I'll do the
yeah,
softball drill. It's the one with the Dodgers would do. They basically would have their pitching coach flip it like slow pitch softball
hmm,
and have them drive upwards through it to try to create an upward swing, but at the same time keep them on their backside. The other thing I would do is I would get I would there's so many drills I have in my head that just they're popping in my head right
yeah,
now. Another drill I would do is the 3 second drill. I do that with all my young kids. I have them, I flip it to them and tell them to hold in the finish position at 3 seconds for 3 seconds. So I'll
yeah.
count 1, 2, 3, and
And
you'll
then
see their swings become way better because they're focusing on their legs and being strong in that position and staying there. And so that's one of them. Another thing I do is the Ichiro drill, where I'll bounce a ball to them, a young hitter, and they have to hit the ball off after the bounce.
oh
And
yeah,
what that is, that's like another way of throwing a curveball to them because they have to stay on the backside. If they jump forward, they're going to slice the ball,
yep,
or they're going to miss it or pound it in the ground. So they have to stay behind the ball. And then that's how they're hitting those line drives and extra base hits. And then the last drill I would do is, dang, there's so many drills that just pop into my head. I
Keep
do
going,
throughout.
man. This is your time to shine, bro.
There's so many drills I do to focus on the base, but that's good right now. I mean, for viewers, they'll probably love those drills.
Yeah.
But that is something that I do uh, with my young hitters, and I think that would help them a ton. And it's something that helped me as well. Usually, if I was going bad, I would be focusing on my base was wrong. Something was wrong with my base. I was
Yeah.
jumping too far
Hmm.
forward. Something was wrong there, and that messed up my swing. So as a young hitter, I want you guys to understand that when you're going bad, check your base. There's That's the first place you want to start because your swing can't even work if your base is not in the right position.
Yeah.
So again, base is super important, and that's basically where I would start.
Yeah. So talking about base and for everyone, how maybe a little different, like feet positioning essentially is one of the more important and underrated parts of hitting in my opinion, because that's something that's catered specifically to you and what feels comfortable and what feels right. Obviously that mental of 60-40 and 50-50 has to be there, otherwise you're just not going to succeed. But how far apart were your feet, like shoulder width? Was it like Juan Soto where you're almost doing a split in the box, or were you more like uh I'll say Bryce Harper now, who's definitely more upright than he ever has been in his career?
I was a little bit, I guess, to answer your question, I was probably about, I'll say about 6 to 12 inches from my shoulder. So that's probably about like, nah, I'll probably be a little bit bigger, but about there. I wouldn't be too far out where
Yeah.
I was, you'll get it with a lot of people where they're stretching too much and they look uncomfortable.
Hmm.
I always felt like if I would swing, and here's a drill just popped in my head. I call this fast hands drill, and everyone's done this before, but most of the people focus on the swing, and I focus on the base. But I'll have three baseballs, and I'll give it to my kids. I'll toss it to them, and I'll toss one to them. They have to swing, get
Hmm.
back, but they have to finish their swing when they do it. So
Yeah.
the base is strong, okay? And
Has
I
to
always
stay.
say, yeah. So it's for me, it's more of a base drill than the actual swing drill.
Huh.
And for me, what I say is after that third swing, you should be able to steal a base. So you've gotten yourself in a position where you swung your stride and your length is you're in a good position where you can just steal a base after that. Drop the bat, boom, you're gone.
Yeah.
And if you're too wide and you can't steal a base, then you're not in an athletic position where you can
Not going to get a good first step. You're going to be slow
exactly.
coming off that bat, trying to drive through with that
Yeah.
backside hip. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about there.
And as far as feet, you brought up a good one about your feet and landing and stuff. I always see it with the young kids. I have no idea where it comes from, but they're more closed off when they hit.
That
And
is exactly what my problem was. I would always, no matter how hard I thought, step almost out, my
yeah,
foot would always end up either on the box line or just near it. And it drove me absolutely crazy.
yeah. So that's another thing that is important that no one really talks about is that
Where your foot
um,
lands.
your foot lands, where are you landing. I like to land even, or I even now, like later in my career, I was like 6 inches open. So I'm okay with that. And even my young hitters, I'm okay with them being 6 inches open because it allows their hands to clear their body and get extension. What I bet you struggled with because you were diving so much in that you were struggling to get your hands out front and extend it because
Yeah.
your body was blocking your hands.
Those high
So
and inside pitches were
yeah,
my worst enemy.
you couldn't get extended because
Yeah.
of your body was in the way. So I just wanted to bring that up because I remember you saying it a few seconds ago.
Yeah. Did what were we just saying? What were we just talking about? I'm sorry. Just got a total brain fart right there.
It was about I can't remember either.
That's funny. Well, anyway, I have another question about the bottom half. Balance. is something that is talked about, but I want to talk about Barry Bonds' balance specifically because one, his head did not move in the box, and two, his back leg was as straight as a needle for the entirety up until he made that violent downward action to that ball. Can you talk to balance and how that may be able to just increase your consistency and honestly make you able to see pitches better in a way?
Yeah. So what made Barry so good was obviously his mechanics were top notch. Plus, he
Next
had
level.
the best eyes. He had ninja vision,
Yeah.
and that helps as well. So he had the best mechanics. Plus, he had the best work ethic. Plus, he had the the top level ninja vision. I mean, he was doing stuff with vision like training that I've never even like seen before, and that's another conversation. But he as far as balance, it was the most important thing. It's crazy because like one of the things that he taught me first day I got in there, and I'm thinking, I'm over here young. I was at UCLA. It was my sophomore year,
I'm gonna show Barry
and
Bonds how good of a hitter I am.
oh
Like he's
yeah,
gonna
I was
love
showing off.
me.
Yep,
Yeah.
I was showing off, squaring up everything, like feeling good about myself, feeling confident. And he goes, "Hey man, I like your swing, but your head's moving too much." And I was like, "What?" And he goes, and in my head, I'm like, "Is this the only thing he's talking about as far as my swing? Is my head's moving too much?" And I'm like, "Did he just see that I'm squaring balls up left and right? Like, come on, man." And he's like, "You're good, but you could be better. Your head's moving too much." And he goes, "Let me show you." So he went and in the cage right across from where I was hitting. So let's say I'm at the batter's box, the plate's right here, and I'm batting. And right across from me at my head, he puts up the tape at like the net. Okay, so he
Yeah.
puts up the tape right there, and then I start swinging, and he puts the tape where I stop my head. And he goes, "See, you've moved your head about 5 boxes." And I was figuring you were doing that. And I was like, dang, he was that in depth in head movement and body movement and stuff like that. And he goes, "That's the difference between a foul ball and a ball roped in the gap. Just that little of movement that you're doing right there." And I was like, dang, that's how specific he was when it came to like keeping your head still and staying on your backside and not moving so much. And he goes, "Here," and he throws me a glove and he says, "Do the catch drill." And we start doing it off the pitching machine, and
So is
that's like
that
how I was able to learn how to keep my head still, because you force the ball to just come to you instead of you going to the ball.
yeah.
So once you're doing the catch drill, you're training your body to be slow, to let the ball come to you, and now you're going to stay in a good position to consistently hit because you're letting the ball come to you. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
What kind of speed were you doing the catch drill on?
So back then, earlier I barely started, and so I was doing it off flips, and I was doing it
Yeah.
off pitching machine at like 30 miles an hour. But now I do it up to, or when I was in season, I would do it up to like 80, 90 miles an hour. I would do
Just
it
to keep
as
your hands fresh, eyes fresh, all that good
yeah, I would
stuff.
just
Yeah.
do it as hard as I can, and it
Yeah.
teaches you to control the strike zone too, because you're anything that you can catch
You
is a
should.
strike.
Yeah.
Anything you can't catch is a ball. So you're learning to see the strike zone and the ball come right into the
Yeah.
strike zone, and you're keeping your eyes on it the entire time. So you're forcing yourself to learn the strike zone.
Like I never even thought of that. And I remember doing that drill as a kid and I was like, what the hell am I doing this for? Cuz my I don't want to bring down any of my coaches or anything cuz they helped me out a lot, but they would just say like, "All right, we're going to do the catch drill." And I'd be like, "Okay." Like I wouldn't have any uh context as to what I was accomplishing by catching this ball with my top hand or my bottom hand, whatever it was. Like just things
That's
like that are just so interesting to me how it could be so multi-layered in the sense where it's keeping you on your backside, it's keeping your head straight. You just got to meet the ball where it's supposed to be. And but at the same time, it's teaching you the strike zone, teaching you what, and honestly, it teaches you what you specifically can and can't hit.
Exactly.
Like I might be able to hit a pitch that you can't, but you're able to hit almost everything because you know what you're weak at and what you're strong at by doing drills
Exactly.
like that. Yeah.
And it teaches you to get on the same plane as the pitch, because for you to catch it, you have to get on the
Got to be
plane of the
parallel.
pitch. So
Yeah.
now you're training your top hand to get on plane with the pitch, which is giving you the best chance to square a ball up and be successful. So that's the reason why I always do that drill, and I do it to all my kids, all the kids I teach, and then yeah, it's something that I truly, truly believe in, and it helps. It helped me in my career drastically. I remember a quick story about a guy that was batting 220, and he was like struggling. Young player, had all the tools, and he finally comes to me as with the Cincinnati Reds. We're in AAA. He comes to me and is like, Jermaine, I need help, man. Help! Like, can you help me out? I was like,
Yeah.
yeah. I was like, meet me tomorrow at 1 o'clock. I'll be in the cage, be me and you. Let's get some work in, And I
Hell
had him
yeah.
do the catch drill, and he was like, "Why would I do? Why am I doing this? This doesn't make any sense." I was like, "Hey, man, do it. Like, it's gonna help you out." Like, I had him do the catch drill. I had him do all the Barry Bonds, my whole routine. I had him do it, the
You
whole
said
Barry
you
Bonds
remember.
routine. That game, he went 4 for 4 with 2 homers, a double, and a single. His
Holy
best game,
shit.
and he went from 220 to like 280. Got called to the big leagues, and he went off. So he took me out to dinner, and that's like one of, I would say I have about 7 to 9 stories of guys that are like
Wow.
that, where it's
Something
probably,
just clicks.
well, yeah, they come hit with me and I have them do these drills, and then they just start going off. They just start squaring balls up, and yeah, I got a few believers.
Well, I'm gonna submit your goddamn resume to the Mets because they could certainly use some of that in their prospect pool. But speaking of getting called up to the bigs, you get called up for Matt Adams in 2013, April 27th. I have those stats. You pinch hit for Matt Carpenter. Jason Grilly's on the mound. You get the at bat. What's going through your mind in that moment?
So the day before I was going to hit, and I told the coach, Matheny, Coach Matheny, I told him, I was like, there was a crucial game, a crucial play, a crucial situation, I should say, a crucial situation that happened where we needed a bunt. And I hadn't really bunt in my career, but I went to them and I said, "Hey, put me in. I'm gonna bunt. Like, I'll get this thing down. We're gonna win this game." And he like got fired up about that. He called me in the office the next day. Obviously, I didn't bunt because that guy ended up getting out, so we didn't need to bunt.
Yeah.
But he was fired up about that, and he was like, "Hey, man, get ready. Like, tomorrow, I feel like it's gonna be your day. Be
Hell
ready.
yeah.
Be ready." And so I was already fired up that entire day, saying, "Okay, something's gonna happen. I'm going to pitch it." But I was supposed to start versus the lefty,
Mm.
but they ended up switching the pitcher, so I didn't actually start versus the lefty. But I came in late in the game versus Jason Gridley, and
By the way, at
man,
the time, like dominant righty reliever out of Pittsburgh, just mowing guys down left and right, had that beautiful head of hair, if I remember correctly.
yeah, he had that
Yeah.
cutter at like 93 miles an hour. Every time I would swing, I was like fouling it off, and I couldn't stay on that cutter. And I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
That thing was dirty. But yeah, he going against him, he was one of the best at the time. I was excited. My heart was beating. Crowd was roaring. Everybody
Yeah.
was yelling, "Come and get your hit! Let's go! Let's go!" People, were just going crazy. My family was there. Man, it was everything I dreamed of since I was 5 years old, and here it was. And I it was like my classic at bat where it was like 9, 10 pitches,
Yeah.
but I end up striking out,
Hmm.
which that's like not my game, but it was still a battle. And the whole time in my head, I'm like,
Yeah.
he's not going to beat me. He's not
It's
going to beat
almost
me.
like you're in college again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all the prep that you do in the minors just kind of like it's in there, but it goes away when you get to the level like the major leagues because like that's you made it there. Like that's all on you. and you just kind of revert back to that little kid mentality of like, you're not gonna beat me. Like no one can beat me. I'm unstoppable, kind of a deal. Like, is that how it felt?
Yeah, I mean, if you're a young player right now and, you know, I heard, you're listening and you're learning right now. Keep listening, keep learning about the mechanics of hitting, but truly, you don't have to have a great swing to be successful in this game. And I wanted to touch on this before I answer your question, but if you have a strong mind, if you can will your success as a hitter.
Yeah.
If you have a strong mind, if you're competitive, you're an athlete, you can get success. It's like I feel like now we're in an age where there's so much information, so kids think that you look online and there's something wrong with your swing, but sometimes you're not being an athlete. It's like from every time I would get in the box, I didn't know anything about hitting. If you ask Yelich, he didn't know anything about hitting until he learned from Barry. So
Till he
what
got to the
made
major leagues.
yeah, so what made Yelich so good? The guy was an athlete. He was a competitor. I guarantee you, if you could walk inside his head, you'll be like, this guy thinks he's the best player in the world. He's going to beat you every pitch.
Yeah.
You can't beat him. That's the mindset you want at the plate. You want to be 9 feet tall. So if you're a player out there, it's cool that you learn all this stuff. The faster you learn it, the better you will be. But don't get too caught up in the mechanics. You still need to, know the mindset. I like to say that the mechanics is a Ferrari.
Yeah.
Fastest car. You're driving at 150, 200 miles per hour. But if you don't know how to drive the car, it doesn't even matter. And what I'm getting at is that mental side is driving the car. So if
Yeah.
you have that, um, that's what's going to help you. Learn the mechanics. It's the Ferrari, but you need to know that the mental side is the biggest part of it. Like the higher you go up, the stronger people minds are. And you could like everyone's doubting themselves, but you have to figure a way around that. Like, you know what I mean? So like once you
Yeah.
can figure the mental game out, that's where you're going to really go. And you see that with a lot of young kids, a lot of kids that have the talent, they just don't have this.
It's
And
just the
that,
mental side, man.
yeah,
Which is
that's what,
90%.
yep, yep. So to answer your question, what's your question again?
That was such a great answer. We don't even need to get to that question. But I wanted to ask you about obviously Barry, but I wanted to talk to you about the other Barry, Barry Larkin and Tony
Mhm.
Gwynn, because those were the gurus of the game and how they just approached hitting. And Tony Gwynn was so good at just battling and shooting that ball to left field and just getting on for his team. Because that's exactly how I did it. I was just, team first. I just wanted to pass it to the next guy. I know that's how you were early in your career. Besides Barry, who do you feel had the biggest impact on you, at least from the hitting perspective? Maybe not just baseball in general, but just like little things that you may have picked up that really clicked in for you.
Man, there was a lot of guys. Tony Jaramillo with the Cincinnati Reds. He's a AAA hitting coach, and he was a hitting coach in the big leagues for a little bit. Benji Molina at the major league level. Barry
Catching
Larkin,
God,
huh?
catching God, Benji Molina.
Yeah, Benji Molina. Um, Barry Larkin, obviously. Barry Larkin was more of a mindset type guy. Like he always said, JC, you need to play with a chip on your shoulder. You need to come on, man. Play with the chip on your shoulder. And like,
Old school.
yeah, old school, and that's basically his whole mindset. And he helped me really with the mindset of being thinking I am the man, being the man, and playing that way. Eric Davis helped me out with driving the ball. You see the Punisher right now, Punisher
Yeah,
with the Cincinnati Reds. That's Eric Davis. That's all ED right there.
yeah,
And ED is the man, man. ED helped me out a ton as far as pulling the ball because that was one of the things that I struggled with. I would hit the ball to right center. I could do that in my sleep, but hitting the ball pull side, that's what I struggle with. And
yeah,
he helped me out a ton with that. But as far as like mentors, man, I had several of them. When it comes to um, Tony Gwynn as well, man, I've been blessed to been mentored and taught by a lot of great players.
Hmm. Yeah,
And they've all had a part in my career. And now I'm giving it to the next generation. If
exactly.
you look at my YouTube videos, I try to simplify it and share those stories. And I think I'm hoping, it grows. And I think a lot of people enjoy my content.
Yeah, I think there's no reason that kids should be all over that stuff. If stuff like that was around when I was coming up, like it wasn't that long ago, but it was long ago enough where the accessibility of YouTube tutorials and videos and stuff like this really weren't just there. And you were talking about all these guys and how you just kind of you take a little bit of everyone to make yourself kind of the perfect athlete that you can. How did talking to all these guys change your approach at the plate over just your career, really?
See, Barry helped me out because Barry told me, like, I understood Barry because he simplified hitting. He told me that mistakes were up in the zone. And up until that point, I never really thought of it in that way. And like, once he said that, I was like, oh, mistakes are up in the zone. That makes sense. Like, maybe I should start hunting pitches up in the zone. And once I started doing that off the pitching machine, off of the like curveball, doing that stuff off the pitching machine, my game changed because I had a solid plan to put me in the hitters counts all the time. Because if it was low, I would just take it. And what does a pitcher try and do? Especially with off speed pitchers, they're trying
Trying to
to
beat
throw it
you
low.
low.
They're
Yeah.
trying to beat you low. So once I simplified the game and looked for pitches up in the zone, I literally took pitches that were tough pitches. I started taking 0-0 change ups, 1-0 change ups, the pitchers trying to do, some foolery. I was able to, just take it and getting hitters counts. And then I started being 2-0 every time. And they're looking for, you're going to get 2-0 fastball. And
And
then
it's
that's when I
probably
started
going to be
driving.
up
Yep.
because they're trying to overcompensate for finishing low 2 times in a row.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
Barry taught me that. Before that, I would just go up there, get a good pitch, take a swing, and hit. And
Yeah.
and I was good. I had good hand-eye coordination where I could do that. But when you get to the higher levels, you have to play to your strengths. And once I started realizing like my strengths, which and I have this right here, this is one of the best things that helped me to be successful in my game. I had a journal that I wrote down everything, my swings. I wrote down what I was thinking at the plate. I wrote down what pitch was thrown. I wrote down all that stuff, and then I had that in my journal, and that helped me figure out what type of player I was. So going back to what you were saying as far as UCLA, you said UCLA, man, you didn't strike out much. Well, so this is what happened, and this is the player I thought I was to compare to what was actually going on. So I would not swing at the first pitch strike. The first pitch, I wouldn't swing at it
Me
because in my
neither.
head,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I can't time that pitch up. I can't,
Exactly.
yeah, it's like, it was a timing thing. Well, what ended up happening was if after I get that first pitch, and then that was a strike, and then I would foul off another pitch or something, I would end up walking, or I would end up getting out. So that was it. I wasn't getting
But
hits
you
with two
weren't
strikes.
you weren't striking out.
I wasn't striking out, but I was walking, or
Put the ball in play
I
somewhere
would
and try to get
yeah,
lucky. Yeah.
I would get out. So at the pro level, I was hitting like 180 or something like that with two strikes.
Yeah.
And so that was terrible. And
Yeah.
in my head, I'm like, why am I giving up a pitch? And it wasn't until I had this book that I started documenting, my journal, I started documenting that I realized that I actually hit fastballs early in the count. And I was better at that. So that changed my entire approach. If I didn't have this journal, I would
Wow.
have never known what type of hitter. So 70% of my hits were fastballs early in the count. So what I started doing now? 0-0 count. I got a fastball, I was
You're
taking a
attacking.
hack at it.
Yeah,
Yep,
man.
take a hack at it, and it's crazy because my walks and stuff stayed the same. I was 1-to-1 with walks and strikeouts.
Yeah.
So this right here helped me out so much, and it's something I give to all my kids, and just to open it up so they can see. But basically, it's like it's really cool
That
where
is
they write
cool.
they write down a lot of
Oh
things
my
inside
God.
the
I
book
would
to
have
help them. Yep.
I would have
And
abused that book.
yeah, so I'm gonna start giving that book out to for free on my YouTube account soon. As long as people just pay the shipping on it, I'll just give it to them for free soon.
That is an awesome tool that I think everybody out there watching right now, if you're a baseball player and you want to know how to hit and you want to know yourself, go get that. Absolutely. That is awesome, dude. When did you come up with that idea?
I mean, I had the notebook when I was playing in the minors. I just created a replica of my notebook and just made it into a book. And it's I just give it to everybody now that wants it. So yeah, that thing helped me out so much in my career because I learned what type of player I was. And when you know what type of player you are, you play to your strengths and you go around your weaknesses. And then you're always, like I said, you're always playing to your strengths. You're gonna know so much about yourself, and that's
Yeah.
the key. It's like what makes people unsuccessful is that they don't know who they are as a hitter. Like when you doubt yourself, you're forgetting what you do well. And
Yeah.
so when you know who you are, that's what makes you successful. And that book is definitely the key for me to get to that got me to the big leagues, helped me have so much success in baseball.
Yeah. I saw an interview with the Mets catcher, James McCann, at the beginning of camp. And he had an interesting quote that I wanted to get your take on. So he said when he was with Detroit, Al Kaline came up to him and he was talking to him about hitting. And Al Kaline said to him, uh, before you ever know who you are as a hitter, you need to go through 1,500 minor league at bats. Then you'll know a little bit. And then you need to go through 1,500 more major league at bats. And then you'll still not know who you are, but you'll have a better sense of it. So I want to get your thoughts on that kind of, that topic.
Yeah, man. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, I didn't know who I was before, before I jumped into professional baseball, and then after, I mean, I don't know how many at bats I've had, but I would say that I had a lot. I learned who I was as a hitter, and um, man, yeah, now I know. Like it's gotten to the point where I feel like I can hit, even though I haven't seen pitching in a while. I can still go out there and do okay
Yeah, because it's all
because
still up here.
yeah, it's all there, and I know what I'm looking for. I'm knowing what I'm trying to do. It's like the guys at the MLB level, the ones that haven't struggled yet, and the guys that have struggled. The guys that haven't struggled, those guys are probably going to continue doing their thing. But once you struggle, then you start to change. Say, all right,
Yeah.
what's going on? You
What
have
am I
to
doing
learn.
wrong? Yeah.
Yep, you have to learn, and that's basically where I started to learn myself. And yeah, I believe in what he's saying. I mean, baseball's tough, man, because the thing is, not only learning yourself, you're also adjusting to the pitchers too. You know,
Yeah.
but you're learning at the same time. You're learning who you are as a hitter,
Yeah.
and that's the key, man. That's the key.
Who do you think in the game today has the best sense of who they are and playing to their strengths in the box?
Christian Yelich. I mean, remember when everybody was talking about launch angle and stuff? He wasn't even about that. Like he
Nah,
just played
man.
his game. I think even Bryce Harper, he's like the metrics are too much.
I
Like I'm just
agree,
going,
man.
yeah. He's like I'm just going to go out there and play. Honestly, I think the guys at the highest level that are doing the best are just staying within themselves. You know, remember having a conversation with Barry Bonds, and he was like, everybody has a bubble around themselves. And
Yeah.
your goal as a player is to protect your bubble and not let people come into your bubble. And the bubble, like that could be someone saying, "Oh, you suck," and if you let that go into your bubble, that's going to affect you and affect the way you play. So your job is to protect that bubble, and that's it. And I feel like the guys at the highest level, the best players, they're always protecting that bubble.
How do you block out noise in a stadium when you're in an at bat?
You know
I've always
what?
been curious.
You know what? Like you get so caught up in the game that you don't even realize the people are there.
So that's
Like,
real. Like that sentiment is real, that you really just lock in. You almost don't even see or hear them. It's almost like
yeah,
stage lights are on the field.
I for me, the best thing in the world was hitting. So hitting for
Yeah.
me was like being in the front yard with my dad playing
Yeah.
every single day. So for me, hitting, I was always dialed in. Nothing was around me, nothing distracted me. But the only time I would feel the audience or hear the audience when I was playing defense. And let's say that it was like, you know, a crucial time in the game where it was like infield in and you had Stanton up and you gotta
Yeah, like Echeverry on third,
yeah,
tying
yeah,
run, all that stuff.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so that was when I would feel the crowd, and it's like, holy crap, your heart's beating and you're uncomfortable. And but that's baseball right there. You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable, and like that's
Yes.
the whole point of the game. So,
Yes.
so as far as that, like a pro, we always go through it. Major leaguers, you're always going to go through it where you're feeling uncomfortable, but it's how you deal with it. So, like when I would feel that situation, I would tell myself, I want to be here. This is where I'm at. I'm meant to be here. I would start telling myself out loud. I would literally be talking to myself out in the field so that I stop thinking about the little guy saying, "Dang, if he hits a ball to you right now, you're a little scared. You're a
Yeah.
little unsure. And so you every guy on the field's thinking the same thing, but they just
Yeah.
figure out ways to get around it. So to answer your question, hitting wise, I never would feel feel the audience because I always wanted to be that guy that got the big hit.
Mm-hmm.
So that for me, the audience didn't matter because I was like, oh, this is what I was born for. Like, I'm going to
Yeah.
go get this, hitting wise. But defense, I'd be like, uh-oh, the crowd's getting loud right now.
Yeah.
Uh-oh,
And
uh-oh,
that
I'm playing.
really, I think that really speaks to how big of a role confidence plays
It's
in
the whole thing.
baseball.
It's the
Like,
whole thing.
because you can just block out the noise. Like, these people don't matter. Like, I'm going to get up here and I'm going to get a hit anyway. It really doesn't matter. But you're on the defensive and maybe you just don't feel as confident or as comfortable. And you're like, shit, hit it to Colton. Like, I'm good. You know what I mean?
Hey, that's the whole part of the game. You have to
Yeah.
be comfortable being uncomfortable. And when I would become uncomfortable, I would just be like, it's part of the game. It's I'm okay. I'm gonna get through this. I'm the man. I could do this. And in that situation, what I was telling you about Stanton being on third, Stanton being up and having the guy on third,
Yeah.
that actually happened. And it was in the minor leagues though, and we were playing in front of like 20,000 fans.
Is that when he was still
And,
Mike?
huh?
Is that when he was still Mike Stanton?
Yep. And he was up, and we had sinker ballers at like 94, 95 miles an hour. So what are they trying to do? They're trying to get him to hit a ground ball to me at third. And
Oh
so I
no.
was playing infield then, and I was like, dude, this guy is going to crush a ball. I was so uncomfortable. And sure enough, they throw a sinker in on him. He hits it hard. The grass is low, so the ball is moving like I could barely even see
Skipping
the
like
ball.
turf.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, skipping, and it hits my chest. It bounces off. I throw it at home, and then I turn around and I like walk back to my spot, and I look at the shortstop, and I'm like, and he just starts laughing.
Oh my god. Yeah, like a down and in sinker to Giancarlo Stanton, who's like a Greek god in stature. You
Yeah,
know, I mean, you probably took like 97 to the chest right there. Like
yeah,
Happy
probably,
Gilmore
yeah, for sure.
getting tougher for next year's hockey tryouts. Love to see it. But I want to get away from hitting for a second because I saw this on your channel last month and I thought it was really, really cool. You did this whole series about the history of the Negro League players and unrecognized names that should definitely be recognized, like Cool Papa Bell and Josh Gibson. So I want you to, if you can, just speak to that for a little bit and why you decided to do that whole little series.
So it's interesting. It's actually my girlfriend. I was thinking, I made a video and you and I talked about it earlier about the Ricky Henderson challenge, and it
Yeah.
was Black History Month, and I was like, man, it'd be cool. I knew Ricky. I played with the A's, and he's the man. Like I want to do something for him. So I made a video during the Ricky Henderson challenge where I tried to beat him to second base. And when I timed him, I watched several of his highlights and his videos. He was from 3.08 seconds to 3.15 seconds from first base to second base. So there's obviously I wouldn't be able to beat that, but I wanted to do this to more so to entertain and to talk about Ricky Henderson.
Yeah.
And so um, I did this video and I really had a blast making this video. And I was talking to my girlfriend about it. I was like, man, look at it. It's getting views. Like people like this video too. You
Yeah.
know, it's awesome. And she was like, why don't you do the Negro Leagues? She goes, why don't you post the video? And this was like February 14th. This was February 14th. She goes, why don't you post a video every single day to the end of the month about Negro League players? And I was like, huh, that's actually a really, really good idea. And so I ended up doing it. It was a lot of work to research,
I
to
imagine. Yeah.
learn about these guys, and then put something together that was visually pleasing.
Hmm.
And but I learned a ton, man. I learned
Yeah.
about what they went through. I learned how good were they. It was basically like so it was basically just to say in the nutshell. I mean, you probably wouldn't understand, but I played in Dominican League, right?
Yeah.
Dominican Winter League. It's like where the best Dominican
Yeah.
players play.
Hmm.
And so basically, how the Dominican was, it was about to sum it up, it was kind of like I'm better than you. The pitcher could throw a strike you out, and then he's like, ah, and he's going like that in front of
It's
the
all
fans.
bravado.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all entertainment. And so
Yeah.
the whole game's entertainment, but the games were so fun because everybody came, there's 15, 20,000 people, and it's just everyone being entertaining, but the game was at a very, very high level.
Yeah.
Like MLB kind of gets to a point where it's more corporate than it is actually like the game being as fun
Yeah.
as you know what I
In
mean? So
in places like the Dominican, I haven't seen it firsthand, but I feel this way. I feel like it's cultural there, as opposed
yes,
to here where it's business driven. There, it's culturally driven. Like that is
yes,
something that they love and they love to watch and play, honestly. I think that's a
yes.
real difference, and it brings out a different side of competition sometimes when familial like familial ties and cultural significance really plays into stuff like that.
Yeah, so like the Winter League is their major leagues.
Yeah.
And they literally like they cry when they lose. Like it means so much to them because they grew up watching those teams and like their
Yeah.
best Dominican players would come back and play for those teams. And then they grew up watching their hometown team and now they're playing on that team. So
Yeah.
they care so much about it. And the culture in Dominican is all about baseball. So when you would go to the beach, when I went to the beach, families were out playing, mom, dad, son, daughter, they were playing baseball on the streets. They're playing baseball at the beach.
Stickball.
They were
Yeah. All
playing,
these
yeah,
things.
stickball. It's part of the entire culture. So when you're at these games like here, the game is marketed as a family sport, but there it's marketed as like it's like
It's
tonight's
the
movie.
sport. Yeah.
It's the sport. It's
It's the
tonight's
main event.
movie. Yeah, the main event exactly. It's the main event. So like these games were so fun, so intense, and anyways, that's what the Negro Leagues was back in the day. I remember hearing, reading stories about Satchel Paige. Satchel Paige would, he was so like cocky and entertaining. He would face a team and he would tell all his infielders to sit behind the pitcher's mound. And so they basically be no infielders out there. And he would strike the three hitters up
Oh
that
my
got up, strike
God.
them out, and send them back, sitting down, and like that was going on during the games. It was like entertaining. It was fun. It was high level baseball, and so I learned so much about it, and I ended up posting. And to be honest, for YouTube, people didn't watch any of my videos about the Negro Leagues,
Yeah.
so it's fine. You know, every day I would post, and
But
I'd be
they're
like,
there. That's what's
yeah,
important. Like they are
yes,
there.
yeah. So that's the one thing. that I'm going to do next year. Again, I plan on doing it. And I want to have the biggest library of Negro Leagues on YouTube. And that's basically, I know people don't really care for it because they weren't watching my videos. And so I understand, but I do want to have that library. So when someone goes to search for something, they could
It can
watch
be
it, you
there.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So,
think just like this, like a stream of information is just so important in understanding where we come from as athletes or just as people and how things progress over time. And I think nothing is uh, better than just capturing the history of something so vital to Major League Baseball, like the Negro Leagues. And I think this year is the first year they're recognizing them and putting them
mhm.
in the Hall of Fame and stuff like that. I think that's great, and it really uh, serves to how talented these guys really were at the time, and they just weren't getting any credit for it.
Yeah, well, the thing is that they didn't have too many documented stats, so that's the problem.
Yeah,
And but they were super, super. See, the game was they played more of a speed game. So like
yeah,
they would bunt, they would hit and run, they
yeah,
would steal bases. So they played fast baseball. Um, and you hear that in the stories where they played against like the MLB teams, and they would just basically be running all over them the entire
yeah,
time. But that was basically the ball. It was more of entertainment and speed, and it wasn't about hitting homers. Even though they
yeah,
had Josh Gibson there, they had guys that could do it. It was just more of a speed game. But I do want to say something. I was saying that, because I don't want someone to take this as saying that no one watches, no one cares. My audience right now on YouTube doesn't care about the Negro Leagues
it's
content.
not
So
about us, man.
yeah,
It's
but
about for the
I know.
future.
That's why I posted it because it was more of the principle, and I wanted to learn myself, and
Yeah,
so I posted it, and it was man, it's so much. It's interesting. Like they got one woman in there, Ethel Louise Manley. She's in the Hall of Fame. I didn't even know about her. No one
yeah,
talks about her, and I had no idea. And then I learned about how instrumental she was in the whole Negro Leagues and to making money basically for the players because they were getting um, basically they were getting bought from those teams,
yeah.
and she was a boss, and she basically made it where they made money from those players. So yeah, it's just so much I learned. And if you're interested in the Negro Leagues, go check it out on my channel. I got 15 videos right now, but they're about 3 to 6 minutes long. They're short.
Yeah,
Um,
and they're just so easily consumable. Like, you can watch five of them in a row, and it hasn't even been an hour. Like,
yeah.
it's. I just think it's a great way to learn about the history of baseball. That's what it is now.
Well, it's not only history of baseball; it's American history
It's
too.
American history. Yeah,
Yeah. So like
absolutely.
that's what it's something that I think the young players. I'm hoping to get more young players to start following me on my YouTube, and then I can start teaching them those things. 'Cause I think it's important that you do learn. I mean, I knew about Satchel Paige. I knew about all these guys because my dad was born in 1947. So I kind of heard stories of him from his dad telling him
Yeah,
about stuff. So I've heard it all these
through the
years, but
grapevine.
through the grapevine, but I never really knew. And so once I kind of, started researching and learning, I'm like, oh man, there's just so much to learn here. And it was so fascinating to see the stories of, you had like, you know, Joe DiMaggio. You had all kinds of guys compliment the players and saying, "Man, they were really good." So I have to believe that they were really good at that time too.
Yeah, and along with these videos that you've been making, you make countless amounts of breakdown videos, hitting tip videos. You've even made some videos recently on how to get recruited to college and certain things that you can do to get noticed by coaches. What drives you to do things like that for kids coming up? Why do you do it?
Um, man, personally, I got two reasons. Or selfishly, I want to grow an audience of players and help them. Um, and that's just being honest as far as like
That's
growing
just the
my,
business, man. Yeah.
yeah, growing my brand. But secondly, man, I'm trying to help people that I never had that help when I was playing, you
Yeah.
know. And now you have YouTube and you have these guys on YouTube, and I feel like sometimes it's too much. And so I wanted to actually give like my favorite. I know I'm like speaking around the circles, but I feel like the future is each player is going to be their own brand and start posting stuff like this. So I think it's going to get oversaturated, and it may already be oversaturated with the hitting stuff. So that's why I kind of like don't post as much as
Yeah.
hitting stuff because I'm like, it's kind of oversaturated. But I do feel like the people that like me want to know what I know.
Yeah.
So I try to explain it in a way that will help them. And so I'm trying to help the younger players. And I just got like a few emails a few days ago. One of the players reached out to me. He said that it was his first game, and his hitting approach was to look for the ball up in the zone. And he stayed away from pitches that he would have normally swung at, and instead he got a pitch that he hit and drove into right center for his first at bat. And then the second at bat, he hit it to left center for a single. And I was like, that's awesome. But like he was like, just knowing that changed him in a way at the plate. And so those things that for me I wanted to share because I feel like I watch all these drills and stuff on YouTube, and I'm like all these drills, they tell you the drills, but
They don't
why
tell you
these
why
players,
they're doing the drill.
yeah, they don't tell you why you should be doing the drills. And they don't tell you like what's the drill actually for. Like, and so that's why I kind of made the channel because I'm like, I try to go a little deeper to explain why I do it, why, and then you can create the drills around everything else. Like now he's looking for the pitch up in the zone. Now he could do drills that he's focusing on that pitch up in the zone. So now he's training himself to be the overall better hitter. So it's like, why they just give you these drills without telling you a plan of actually how to execute what you're actually, and if the drill was the key, why wouldn't more players be as successful? Because the drills are just drills.
Yeah, like I was hitting a basketball into a net for 3 years before I was like, what is this doing for me?
Yeah,
Like every winter, I would just pound that thing into the cage, and I'd be like, oh, this feels good. It feels right. I had no idea what I was doing it for. I was just doing it because my coach told me to. Like
exactly.
that's not what it is. The why is the most important part because the why clicks it all into place for you because you understand what it is that you're trying to accomplish, and then eventually you have that all down so you don't even have to think about it in the game. You just have to worry about getting to that pitch.
Exactly. Yeah, and I don't know if you've noticed with my YouTube channel, like I share the whys. So I
Oh
give you the
yeah. Oh
drills.
yeah. That's
I give you
exactly it.
Yeah, I give you the drills, but I also tell you why I'm doing it and why I'm sharing it because I think that's important to actually know why you're doing stuff, you know, because like I said, I watch these videos and I'm like, well, they're just telling you a drill and making it in a way to make you believe that you need to do the drill, but that's not the answer.
Yeah.
The answer,
Everyone's about the how right now. No one's
yeah,
about the why.
yeah, and I'm like, the answer is you got to have the whole plan, like that kid. Now he's looking for pitches up in the zone. Now he has drills he can do that's looking for pitches up in the zone, and now he's creating a plan where an ecosystem where he can be successful. It's like, it's just not going to do drills and then, oh, I got it, like I got it. It's like he still doesn't have an approach to go with the drills. So it's
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? It's not all congruent and
I know what
working
you're talking about.
together. And so that's why I started doing that. I don't know if I'm going to continue to do that moving
Yeah.
forward. I hope to expand to grow my audience to be more of a. I would like to be helping all athletes, like
Yeah.
not just baseball players, but football players, soccer players. I want to help them all.
Yeah.
I've been through it, been at the highest levels. I want to start talking about money with athletes. I want to be talking about,
Yeah, I was
um,
just gonna say because you have business experience in Major League Baseball, which is very, very complicated. So I
yeah,
feel like you have insight in that world that athletes of any sport coming up can definitely gain some vital information from.
Yeah, so I want to start talking about that. I want to start talking about that information. I want to start talking about marketing and being
Branding.
you're talking about getting brand deals, bat deals, all that stuff. Like I want to be more of helping the athlete, the overall athlete, not just be the hitting coach. But as of right now, it's helped me to gain a little following. So I might as well keep watering it. Just keep watering it and
Yeah.
hoping, once
Come back
people
every
like
few days, it'll grow.
yep, once people like you share stuff like this, and
Yeah.
then you tell other people about my channel and it starts
Oh yeah.
growing, then I'm gonna start doing other stuff. Like I have a video that's in the works right now, is how much Trevor Bauer makes per pitch. And so that is a different video from my audience,
That's a good
but
one.
I want to make videos like that talking about the money aspect from a player's point of view, my view, saying, okay, well, this is, giving the insight to that. But I want to start doing that with Fernando Tatis contract, Mike Trout
Yeah.
contract, other athletes' contracts, and start talking more of money, that stuff, business. I want to start talking about brand deals, how much, like Bryce Harper in his Under Armour deal,
Yeah.
because like, is that a good deal or is it a bad deal? I
Nick Trout
talked
with
to,
Nike, all those
yeah,
things.
stuff like
Yeah.
that. I want to be more of um, a YouTuber, I guess.
I like to call it just more of a fully realized version of yourself, because like these are
Yeah,
things that you're all like you're
interested in.
interested in, and you want to talk about. It's just the fact of just pressing play and doing it.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I want to be the thing is I feel like I want to do what I enjoy. And this was what we were doing in the clubhouse. We were
Yeah.
talking about all this stuff in the clubhouse. Like, how did I like business? I like business now and marketing and all that stuff because I was in the clubhouse talking to Matt Holliday, Carlos Beltran, talking to these guys about what are they doing with their money and where are they investing. These
Yeah.
guys taught me. This is how I learned this stuff. So I want to talk about it. But right now, if I talk about it, people aren't going to really watch now. But I'm trying to grow the audience right now so that they start watching my other content.
That's a great plan, and I really hope it works out for you. I see no reason as to why it shouldn't. You are a genius when it comes to hitting. You've met with some of the best minds in the game, and you've turned yourself into one of those best minds. So I want to thank you for coming out here, man. It was an honor talking to you. This was a great conversation. I learned a lot. I hope everybody out there did. Jermaine, where can we find you? You got anything exciting coming up?
Well, you can find me at Jermaine Curtis on YouTube. And as far as things coming up, I'm trying to post every day, trying to grow that audience. If you like baseball, if you want to talk business, you want to talk marketing, if you want to talk hitting, if you have any struggles, follow me, ask those questions. I'm willing to help the best I can. I'm just trying to grow and help others and see what happens here. I hope one day I could grow this to something special. If
Yeah.
not, it's going to be cool just interacting with people. And, and that's pretty much what's going on a daily basis. As far as find me on the other stuff, you can find me on Twitter at Jermaine Curtis and Instagram at Jermaine Curtis1 and Facebook. Man, I got so many different profiles on Facebook.
Who doesn't, man?
And
I got
so
all
you
shit.
could just put at Jermaine Curtis and you'll find me. Or you can go to Jermaine Curtis page or Pros Cave. See, I'm always wearing the Pros Cave stuff.
Yes, sir.
Um, and that's pretty much it. And I appreciate you, having me on. We talked a lot.
Yeah, we did.
There's a lot of stuff that I shared. Let me see if there's one thing I can give to guys that are watching here. If you're a young baseball player, there's one thing I can say to you. Um, Actually, I'll say two things. First thing I would say is if you're trying to be a D1 player, if you're trying to play in the MLB one day, this is my tip for you. What happens at your age is that a lot of players say that you want it. And but the problem is you don't commit. So the first thing you want to do is you want to commit to what you're doing. And once you commit and you've made that promise, that promise to yourself that hey, I am going to be a D1 player, I am going
Yeah.
to be a MLB player. Then the second question is how do I make that happen? And see, the thing is if you're a player out there and you're struggling and you want to play at the D1 level, the MLB level, you haven't asked the right questions. So
Exactly.
the first question you need to ask is, do I really, really want this? And if the answer is yes, now that you committed, you will start creating the plan for yourself to be successful. Just to give you a idea, when I was younger, I wanted to play for this travel ball team in my area. Really, really good. And I was like 12 years old and I wanted to play. It's just it was a summer thing, and so I wanted to play with them. So when I was like 12 years old, and the team is at 13 years old, so I was
Yeah.
12 years old. Every day after practice and after I did my homework, I went home and I hit off the cage or hit off the tee into our chain link fence. We didn't have a net, but I had a chain link fence in my backyard, and I would hit it to right center. I would do like 50 swings, center field, and I
Yeah.
would do to left center, and I would do high, low, and I really did that every single day. And then I basically create a plan to give myself a chance to make that team. And sure enough, when time came and I had to try out, I went off, and I end up basically making that team. And that summer, I went off, and I was one of the best players on that. And that was an elite travel ball team at that age, and it was representing the Southern California team. So, anyways,
Is
I
that
bring
where
that stuff.
you really realized like, hey, like I can do this at a higher level?
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
learned that I could put goals. I basically had a plan. I created my own plan and I executed it on my own.
Yeah.
And I was motivated to do that. And that's why I'm saying is like you need to commit and then you'll create a system where you'll get yourself to be successful. See, the world, I feel like the world wants you to be successful, but sometimes like we cloud ourselves or we don't let ourselves become successful. We don't ask the right question. So if you're young out there, commit. First thing you need to commit. And once you commit, say, yeah, this is what I want to do. Then the second thing is, how do I create a plan to do that? So I had a player that one more. I'm just giving you more information, But I had a player. He's younger. He was a sophomore last year, and he was 160 pounds, and his exit velocity was like 70. And he says, Jermaine, you think I can play D1? That's my dream. That's my goal. And I was like, dude, I believe you can, but you got to make some changes. Like
Yeah.
you're 160. Like that ain't gonna fly. I was like, look at a D1 roster, and everyone was like, 6'2", 190, 200. Everybody,
Get your booty in the
six.
gym, man.
Yeah, I was like, you need to like act like that. He's like, all right, I'm gonna do it. This year, which was actually, let's say 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, he got a call from his first D1 program.
Yes.
And now he's 195 and his exit velo is 92 miles an hour. And
Wow.
1 year later, this guy he did his underloading, overloading, which I told him to do. I told him to eat. Told him about eating chicken, sweet
Yeah.
potato, broccoli. I told him about counting his calories, doing his macros. I told him about weight training. Now he's like deadlifting like 450. Like this kid is going for it. And he's now getting talks. That was his first call 2 weeks ago. Yesterday, he went to Seton Hall for a unofficial recruiting visit, and that basically he's turned himself into a D1 player in a year. So if basically what I'm saying is he committed and he was waking up earlier than school time, and he was working out, he was eating, he was doing his nutrition, he was doing it every single day, and he was
Yeah.
so committed to it. Now it's paying off. So if you're a young player out there, first thing you need to do is say, all right, this is what I want. I had him make a mission statement. Say, I am a D1 baseball player. And he wrote that and he had to read it to himself every single day, 3 times per day. So that was his mission. That's what he lived for. So he made that a priority every single day. And that's what I did when I was saying I'm going to be an MLB player. I had my mission statement and I wrote, and we can go, I could do a course on that, but it's basically what you stand for as a player.
Yeah.
And I read that 3 times, and that basically kept me on what I need to keep to do. So, first thing I would say is commit, and then that will help you out. Once you commit, you'll start asking the right questions, and then you'll start creating a plan to get to what you want to do. And then the next thing I would say, as far as hitting goes, work your top hand, work your balance, and your mental game. Those are the things right there. I would say more so mental.
Go through
It's
scenarios.
as
Always.
far
Always be
huh?
going through scenarios.
Always go through scenarios. Yeah, man, there's so much we can talk about hitting, but yeah, those are the things. Just keep improving. And the one thing about hitting that is hit every day, man. that's
Just do what
that's
you
literally
love.
all
Hit
you.
every day.
Yeah, every day, just hit. I mean, there's if you think about it, going back to the Negro leagues and all that stuff, these guys didn't have as much information, but how were they hitting bombs? They just learned by hitting, and
Yeah.
if you could get live pitching in, do live pitching. What I feel like here in the upstate New York, there's really good baseball players here. But the problem is it snows for 6 months out of the year. So they
We're
don't see,
snowed into gymnasiums for
there's,
months and months on end. I
yeah.
dealt with that my
And
entire life.
so they don't, and you guys don't see as much live pitching as I grew up in California. I was at a tournament every weekend. Only
Yeah.
3 weeks out of the year it rained. That was it. So the whole year I was just hitting and I took at bats. So what I've done here is start doing more live at bats with my younger kids. So what I'm saying is, if you're a player, try to jump in the live at bats. Try to create something where you can see a bats, a bats, a bats. You'll start becoming the good hitter that you're
Yeah.
going to be. You don't have to focus on the mechanics as much if you go in and just face, because eventually you'll get good at it. You'll get really good at it. If you keep facing it over and over and over.
Yeah. Uh, quick quote comes to my mind as we're wrapping this up. Kevin Hart always says, "Everybody wants to be famous, but no one wants to put the work in." And
Yep.
that's exactly what it is, man. You just got to keep grinding, put that work in, head down, ask the right questions, get in the gym, all those things. And I'd love to have you back on anytime you want to come on. Jermaine, this was awesome. Everyone out there, I hope you enjoyed watching. This has been the first ever episode of Sports Surgeon, picking the brains of the best minds in sports.
Man.
Jermaine, my man, awesome having you. We'll see you next time. And yeah, that's going to do it.
I appreciate you, man.
All right.